Transferable skills. From Cackle Media, this is Transferable Skills. I'm Noah Mishkin. Today's guest is Trent Merrell, who shares his skills journey from resident life coordinator into Pickleball Pro. This is a first for the show, having the spouse of a previous guest on as today's guest for this episode. I hope you enjoy. Trent, it's great to have you here on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Tell me about your career journey. What have you been up to?
Yeah, so I've always had just a lot of different interests, and that's always been the case even from a young age. It took me a long time to figure out what college I wanted to go to, and ended up going to school for recreation administration. So had opportunities to really plan community events, plan different youth events, things of that nature, and really enjoyed it. While I was in college, I got involved with residence life. I became an RA, and then a couple of years outside of grad school as well, I was a residence life coordinator.
Can I ask you a question about being an RA? For those who don't know what an RA is, a resident assistant, if usually as a student yourself, whether it's undergrad or graduate school, you are in charge of students living on campus in housing. You're kind of like a camp counselor, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
You're usually assigned like a number of rooms, a floor, but you're in charge of an area of the dormitory and the students that are living there. Help me understand the difference between your responsibilities or the experience being an RA versus maybe a resident life coordinator.
Yeah, so I was the professional staff member of the complex. So I supervised all the RAs. We also had a 24/7 front desk, so supervised the individuals who worked at the front desk who were also students. During the school year, had the college students, and during the summer, we would have camps and conferences. So had a lot of different people coming in for those camps and conferences. So we had youth coming in, we had high school students, college students, adults, sometimes for the camps and conferences too. School year, college students, and then camps and conferences, a whole mixture of people.
In that role as resident life coordinator, you're essentially managing all the events that are taking place, and you're coordinating the RAs and the activities throughout the 12 months of the calendar year, correct?
Yeah, it was a lot because a lot of these college students haven't been away from home before. So we had a lot of culture shock for those college students, had to counsel a lot of different roommate conflicts that occurred. And just because college life is tough, also had many students who were depressed, contemplating suicide. So just a lot of different issues that you might not even think of in working in a residence hall that you have to deal with, just because people are people and people have different things come up that they need support in navigating through.
What attracted you to that position?
I love planning events. That is something I love to do regardless of the role I'm in. Want to plan special events that I think are really fun and really cool, and hopefully people want to go to them.
Let me ask you a question, because as a former student myself who used to live on campus for a period, I remember a lot of the activities the RA planned, they felt very forced. You also get that sometimes in the corporate world, where sometimes there's fun activities, or they're supposed to be fun, but really how fun are they versus we're putting on a face because they're mandatory. You have to show up and participate, but are they actually really fun?
Yeah, I think they wanted to come to the events, especially at the last university I worked at, Texas Tech. We had learning outcomes that we wanted to get out of the events that we were doing. So we had to be really creative to make sure that we got those learning outcomes, but people actually wanted to go to them and enjoyed themselves. So hopefully they kept coming back. Some people came because they liked me as a person. Some people came because the event sounded fun. And other people came because we might have had free food.
You're going.
Yeah, a whole gamut of reasons why people might come to the events.
It's always a catch-all. You're going to get people because there's free food, pizza, or whatever. Do you have, when you're planning an event, regardless of who it's for, do you have a philosophy or a model that almost like a rubric that you use when you're creating an event? I want to keep these few things in mind.
Yeah, I look for planned things for the event, but also opportunities for people just to relax and get to know individuals as well. So structure, but not too much structure where it
Hmm.
feels regimented. I want to make sure that I'm having fun as well. So not planning something that I think is going to be boring, something that I wouldn't even want to go to. I want to make sure the event is something that it sparks that interest so they want to check it out.
Do you think a good event has to cost money?
I don't think so. In my major, we had to plan a lot of events and working with nonprofits, recreation facilities, we don't have a lot of resources. So oftentimes we would be told, here's a supply closet, plan something, whatever you could think of.
Yeah.
So I always just look at whatever those resources are, how can we make the best out of limited resources that we have and still be able to provide that space for people to have fun, get to know each other, and hopefully learn something. That's just the icing on the cake. So I got burnt out really quickly. And as I was job searching, I was looking for higher education jobs as well as nonprofit jobs because while in school, my minor was nonprofit administration and really enjoyed that. Had a phone interview with Goodwill in Austin, Texas. One phone interview, I was offered a position, so decided to move from West Texas to Austin, Texas for this new role. My first role at Goodwill, it was called Career Advancement Trainer. So I worked with a bunch of different people who were going to Goodwill for assistance in finding a job. So I would do classes with them on how to do your resume, how to do interviewing, but also soft skills as well. We had communication classes, we had dependability classes, time management, a whole bunch of different soft skills. So, depending on the person, they would get assigned these classes by their career case manager and they would go to the classes. And sometimes they were just going to them because they were forced to. But I would try to make the classes the same with the events, a fun, enjoyable time, get to know the person as a person, hoping that they would have a good time where they would want to come to future classes, even if they didn't have to. So I really enjoyed that role. I got to help a lot of people finding a job that they loved going to. I was in that first role at Goodwill for about a year before I was promoted. Even when I was promoted, I still wanted to help people with resumes and interviews. So I still snuck in some classes when I had the opportunity to.
Yeah, that's nice. There is a very strong connection, like you said, between planning events as an RA or event coordinator in resident life and creating opportunities and making meaningful gathering events for this role.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I always was connected to individuals at Goodwill because most of them, many of them, were adults who, for whatever reason, were looking for a career change or for whatever reason didn't have opportunities to education. And I've been really fortunate with the opportunities that I've been given. So want to help other people be able to get education, training that is aligned with what they want to do with their lives. Really enjoyed that work.
How do you figure out how to help somebody explore the options that they might have and what might be most meaningful to them?
So, a lot of reflection. We would do career inventories with them where they would do a survey and answer a bunch of questions. And the survey would tell them, these are what your skills align with. Sometimes it made sense for the person, sometimes they didn't agree with it at all. But a lot of people came to Goodwill because they knew we would help fund training that they were looking to do. So, some people were interested in becoming a truck driver, some people are interested in becoming a nursing assistant. So a lot of them came in knowing what types of jobs they might want to do, but some of them were still, I don't know what I want to do. And then we would do that career inventory, try to find something that they might be interested in based on the skills they currently have and their hopes for the future.
Do you find yourself using your own background and skills doing this and finding your next opportunities?
I think so. So I have had a bunch of different opportunities that have been presented themselves to me, but a big overarching thing is trying to find work that is meaningful for me, being able to work with people I genuinely enjoy working with, I have always said I could do any job if I like the people I'm working with. The job that I was in the longest ever was at Dairy Queen, and I worked there from freshman year of high school up until senior year of college just because I liked my boss. So I'd always keep going back to Dairy Queen. If she still owned a Dairy Queen by me, still would work there. And then while I was in Austin, every Halloween I was there. I worked for this husband and wife that owned a Halloween store, and I would work there just because I liked them. I didn't necessarily need to work there, especially after I was promoted at Goodwill, but I liked them as people. I wanted to see their business succeed and wanted to spend time with them, so I kept working at the Halloween store. I could do anything as long as I like the people, but it just is even better when that work is meaningful and I'm connecting with people I'm working with as well.
Yeah, it's hard to go through tough situations or difficult situations. Those are always going to come up at work at various times, but they're a lot more palatable, even potentially enjoyable when you're doing it with the right people.
Oh, I totally agree.
Good people will follow you. The good leaders and the people that report up to them, will follow one another, vice versa, both ways, because people want to work with individuals that they get along with, that they like, that they admire, that they respect. How long were you in that role at Goodwill?
I was in that role for a year, and then I was promoted to what was called, grant project supervisor. That role, I oversaw some of the grants that we had at Goodwill. So I had 2 grants for individuals who had justice involvement. So one for adult, one for youth, and then one grant specifically for individuals with disabilities who were looking for internship and work experience. That role was a lot of data, a lot of budgeting, things I probably wasn't very good at when I started. But the great part about my first 2 career paths, higher education and nonprofit, the great part for me was they had a lot of turnover, which meant I was given a lot of opportunities I probably wasn't ready for because they needed somebody to do them.
Yeah. If you wait until you're ready to do something, you've probably shortchanged yourself by some amount of time that you probably could have been in it, ramping up and learning on the job. Waiting too long also has its drawbacks.
Yeah, I agree. There are a lot of other grant project supervisors who I learned from because I was not very good at it when I started, but was able to learn from them, was able to become better at managing money, was able to become better at looking at those goals that we have for the project and how could we make those goals happen? How could we make those happen, but also make sure we're having those positive impacts on those individuals in the program. I really enjoy that role. I gained a lot of skills in looking at data, a lot of skills at budgeting, because those aren't skills that are natural to me, but being thrown in that position had to use a different side of my brain that I was used to using, but it was good to be able to gain those skills in those areas. Without that role, I probably wouldn't look at data the same. Now, decisions that I'm making, I'm looking at those numbers. I'm looking at the budget that's going to take to be able to reach those goals. What's the potential return on investment? Because prior to that, it was all about whatever my gut was telling me. So I feel this is the best decision, but I didn't necessarily have the stats to back it up. But because of that role, I'm now feeling it, but having the numbers to back it up as well. While working at Goodwill, they are very data-driven, budget-driven, because you really had to be in nonprofit because you have limited resources to try to do as much great things as possible. I think even when I'm not in nonprofit now, I'm using that data to make those decisions in the roles that I'm currently doing.
How long did you stay in that role, and then where'd you go from there?
I stayed at that Goodwill for a little bit longer. I was promoted again to manager of intake. I supervised the people who were the front door of Goodwill. So people who assess people to see what programs might be best for them, and then took on our internship programs where we were able to place people in work opportunities. So a lot of these people had never worked before. So youth, putting them in internship programs, and then other individuals who had been incarcerated for a while. So putting them in internship programs to show that they're ready to get back to work. That was my last job at Goodwill in Texas. Then I had an opportunity to move over to a Goodwill in Virginia and was director of workforce training. So I oversaw all of our workforce programs at that Goodwill, overseeing the people in a role that I used to be in, sharing with them about the budgeting and the data, being on the other side of things, which was a great opportunity. I was in that role for a couple years and then moved to Indiana to work for another Goodwill. And that Goodwill, I was the director of career and technical education. It was definitely data driven, definitely numbers driven, but allowed me to get more into that programming, that event planning, because my role was we want to train a bunch of people. We want to create these training programs for them, and we don't know what we want to do. So you help determine what training programs we're going to do. So had the opportunity to build a construction program, automotive training program, different IT programs.
How do you decide what new programs you want to explore?
A lot of conversations with people. And first thing I do when I start any job is just talk to as many people as will talk to me. So I'm meeting with everybody. I'm asking them about the organization, to learn about the organization, but also for that specific position, I was talking to people about, okay, what trainings do you think? So I was getting a lot of different answers. I got somebody who said Goodwill should run a tattoo training program. Goodwill should be pilot license. So I was getting a lot of different things. So I was looking at specifically because we're not going to be a community college. We're not going to be a 4-year institution. So what can we be in the between high school and a 2-year degree? What are some opportunities that we could come about? So we landed on construction. We landed on automotive. We dabbled in a little bit of healthcare and did some IT trainings as well. So my goal was always to be that stepping stone between high school and college. And if they do a program with us and they want to continue on to a 2-year or 4-year degree, that would be another opportunity for them. So we did a career plan just like we did with all the other programs, but in that career plan, letting them know where Goodwill fell on that career plan and how they could continue their education at Ivy Tech or at another school after that.
You're exploring a bunch of different potential opportunities for internships and people to learn on the job. How do you know when an idea is a bad idea and not one that you should be pursuing any further?
Yeah, so looking at a bunch of different things, especially when we're looking to place participant in an internship or working with an employer partner, because we had employer partners connected with the different trainings, our construction, our automotive training. So we're looking at, does this partner align with our values? Because we don't want to place a participant at an employer who's going to treat them poorly or is going to treat them less than what we treat them at our organization. So a lot of it is seeing if our values align together, because the worst thing that we could do is place a participant in a terrible work environment, because a lot of our participants have gone through a lot of rough things, and we want this to be that light at the end of the tunnel. We want to help them reach those goals and don't want to have any additional setbacks, especially ones that we could help prevent. So a lot of it was looking at, do our values align? And if they do, we could partner. If they don't, then this isn't a good partnership opportunity.
Yeah, you want that first stepping stone of an opportunity to be a successful one, and for that success to compound them, to feel the determination and motivation to continue moving on and progressing. Whereas a bad experience might lead to completely adverse reactions and results indefinitely.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it was fun though. It was.
Did you feel that pressure?
I didn't really feel it. I really like just being given free reign to do what I think is best. And not being able to make every decision, of course, but being able to explore opportunities, connect with people, hear from them what their perspectives are. So it took a while to figure out what trainings we wanted to land on, but the trainings that we did land on are still going on today, still seeing graduates from the automotive program, graduates from construction program. So it's really cool even when you leave the role to see all that's going on after, because the worst thing that could happen is developing something and have it not continue after you leave the role. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think of the roles that I've had in the nonprofit world, that was probably my favorite one, just because I was the first one. So, really got to
Yeah.
make a lot out of that position.
And you're seeing the results of your hard work. It's your legacy that lives on.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I love seeing all the automotive graduates, all the construction graduates, and yeah, and they're creating lives for themselves, lives for their families, whatever role I'm in. Want to make sure I love the work that I do. So being able to help other people find love and enjoyment in their work was a really great opportunity.
Does anybody reach out to you still and keep in touch?
Sometimes I still get people reaching out to me about just asking perspectives on different things. After Goodwill, Grant and I, who you know, had to move to Indianapolis. I landed at a nonprofit that focused on individuals. It was very similar to Goodwill, where we had a high school equivalency program. We also had a bookstore component that helped to fund the programs that we had. So I oversaw all of our programs at that smaller nonprofit. So that nonprofit had a lot less resources than Goodwill, which is just a juggernaut of resources. Really had to focus on that budgeting, that making sure every decision is data driven, because every year I was there, we were in the red. So we were scraping by. So we couldn't make any poor budget decisions, because that would mean having to lose staff or having to have less programs. I think one of the pros for the smaller nonprofit was we could make decisions a lot quicker, because we didn't have a lot of layers to go through in making those decisions. But on the flip side, we also didn't have our own IT department. We had a contracted IT firm. We didn't have a dedicated human resources person that was part of their many other job responsibilities that they had to do. I liked it because decisions got to be made a lot quicker, but also we didn't have as much support from those support team members as I was used to working for that larger nonprofit in Goodwill. So definitely pros and cons for both. Yeah, if I had to work for a nonprofit again, I would probably want something about in the middle. Maybe not a gigantic one, but also having the needed staff to do the work that we're doing.
Just enough resources to support your ideas and opportunities, but not too much to restrict your own autonomy. Yeah. That's a cop-out answer, but I'll accept it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. That's all I got.
What I'm noticing is a commonality working early in your career at a university, be it public or private, and then moving into nonprofit work at Goodwill and beyond. The through line seems to be mission driven education and community building and gathering and advocation for individuals and giving them resources and support. This seems to be a massive through line in your career, being mission driven, working for an organization that has a mission.
I think I've always been mission driven, specifically working with adults who are looking for those education opportunities within those nonprofit roles. My dad, he dropped out of high school and went to serve in Vietnam. So he was a non-traditional student when he came back from war, and he didn't earn his high school diploma until he was in his 30s, because my mom forced him to. So just seeing that and having a lot of educational opportunities that I've been lucky enough to have, I've just been really drawn to helping individuals figure out what they want to do, but also helping them navigate and find that training to be able to connect them to a job that they like going to every day, because it makes such a difference in working somewhere that you like to work at versus working somewhere that is absolutely your worst nightmare and you hate working at. So being able to help people find that was something I love doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's mission driven. There's nothing worse than being unemployed and maybe after that, maybe underemployed or in a job that feels like you're dying inside.
Oh, I totally agree.
How did you know at this point that it was time to move on?
It was time to move on when just my work and my supervisor weren't connecting anymore. So I had never quit a job before without having another job lined up. And I decided to, just because it wasn't a good opportunity for me anymore. We weren't connecting. We were not on the same page. And I just was not liking to go to work anymore. And that's something that I don't want to experience, because it not only impacts me as a person, but I didn't want it to impact my team either. I want them to still love the work that they're doing. And if I'm not having that same love, I don't want to negatively impact them either. When I left the role, thankfully, I was also teaching on the side. So I was teaching at 2 universities and decided to see if I could teach a couple more classes with each of them. While I was looking for another job, I was filling my time playing pickleball every day, job searching on the side. And during one of my open plays that I went to, one of the Pickleball Pro said, "Hey, we just lost another instructor." I'm like, "You did?" So I sent an email to the person who oversaw the facility. I'm interested in teaching here if there's the opportunity. We connected. He hired me on. He helped pay for my pickleball certification. So was able to start teaching pickleball and teaching at 2 universities as well. During my role in Virginia, I started to get my doctorate because I had the goal of teaching on the side, was able to continue that in Indiana. And also when I left my position at nonprofit, I was just able to bump up the classes that I was teaching. Something that I've always valued just throughout my own life and helping other people as well is looking for ways to grow, having that growth mindset. Even when I liked my job, still looking for different opportunities to grow, earn my doctorate, because one thing they can't take away from you is your education. Want to make sure I have that education to back me up to be able to do things that I want to do, which was teaching. I'm a pickleball pro as well as teaching at 2 universities right now.
What was your doctorate in?
My doctorate was in leadership, specifically focusing on community organizations. When I started earning my doctorate, was hoping to continue working in nonprofit after it and also teach. No longer working in nonprofit, but still able and connected to that role by teaching individuals who are potentially looking to work in nonprofit.
I feel like every single one of those stops along your career journey has been preparing you for that doctorate. All of it was about helping others, training, quality of life, and work and community gatherings and experiences. So it feels like your doctorate, you're living it. You're quite genuine and authentic to fulfilling your vision.
Oh yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I loved being in the doctorate experience, and thankfully that role many years ago where I had to look at data and numbers was very helpful in doing the research, which if you would have asked me when I was in grad school if I would ever get a doctorate, I probably would tell you no, because I wasn't the model graduate student. But roles that I was afforded in nonprofit allowed me to gain skills in that budgeting, that looking at numbers, because if I wasn't given that opportunity, I probably would have struggled a lot more in my doctorate work without that experience.
Do you think having your doctorate before your earlier roles would have served you well in those opportunities and the jobs that followed? Or do you think it's more that you succeeded in your doctorate because of the roles that you've had that preceded it?
I think I started my doctorate right at the right time, just because I was able to pull from those experiences I had already learned from. And so my research was focused on millennials who supervise people who are older than them. And if I wouldn't have had my own experiences supervising individuals from older generations, I probably wouldn't have landed on that research topic. Being able to see my work working with individuals who are older than me, and then being able to see the work of other millennial leaders and their work with individuals who are older than them, just because regardless of the generation, they always get bad stereotypes by the older generations before them. So it was really cool to see all the different skills that they were using in their work with those individuals they were supervising, because and I probably wouldn't have landed on that topic if I hadn't had those leadership opportunities.
What an interesting dynamic of research. The millennials supervising an elder generation. It's always odd or maybe even uncomfortable when you have a manager that is noticeably younger than the people that report up to them. It's another thing to be given life advice and career advice from that person.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting area to research and study. Is there anything that stood out during your research that was interesting to you that you now integrate into your life that you're constantly thinking about?
Yeah, so my research focused on situational leadership theory. So that's the idea that you're looking at each individual person, each individual job responsibility, and choosing how to supervise that person based on those things. So really focused in on how they were choosing to supervise those individuals from older generations, and not feeling like they had to be that stereotypical manager, but utilizing those individuals for mentoring opportunities of younger team members. But also we found the reverse mentoring. So having younger individuals mentor the older individuals on like new technology, things of that nature. I really enjoyed learning about that situational leadership theory, because that's how I always saw my leadership, and looking at each individual person as an individual, choosing the best way to work with them based on that. And it was cool to finally figure out what it was called by doing that research, and see that other millennials were doing the same, to be able to look at each person as an individual and choosing the best way to work with them based on that. So it was cool to see all the cool things that they were doing in their work, and just the overarching theme was looking at each person as an individual, how to best work with them based on that.
Very cool. Very interesting stuff. How long were you playing pickleball before you were able to become an instructor and a pro?
Not very long. So I started playing pickleball on a regular basis in December, and in January quit my job and decided to become a pro in February. So I hadn't been playing for a long time, but growing up I was a tennis player, and I found love for pickleball just like I found love for tennis. So a lot of those same skills translated over. Had to learn, of course, new strategy, new rules for pickleball, but was able to utilize a lot of those skills that I gained in my tennis background.
Do you still play tennis at all, or is it just pickleball these days?
Yeah, I haven't played tennis in a while. So I really like pickleball because it is a social sport. It's really become that new golf where people go play pickleball because they like the people, and they're making business deals with people on the pickleball court. I really like it because of that social aspect. I haven't played tennis in a long time, but started playing pickleball just because it seemed like everybody was. That's why I first started in December. And then, like a lot of people, just fell in love with it and just kept playing and playing because of that. And it really found me at the right time, because I was going through that change in career. And if it wasn't for pickleball, I probably would have found another nonprofit job and may or may not have liked it. So really glad that I found pickleball at the right time.
are you in this early stage in your instructor pro experience? Where do you see this going? What do you want to accomplish within pickleball? And how would you describe why you think you're a good instructor?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. So I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people, and it's just like my other roles in building those relationships. That's been key. I'm just not supervising the people now. I'm just providing that pickleball instruction. So really love working with somebody in that intro class and then having them continue on into future classes as well and seeing their skills just blossom, helping them find that love for the sport. I've utilized a lot of skills that I use in nonprofit in pickleball by relationship building, building curriculum as well, because I'm not just winging it every day that I go there. I have a curriculum that I built out. So I want to continue growing. I want to continue growing the amount of classes that I do, the amount of people that I work with, and I hope to become a director of pickleball at a pickleball facility. So that way I could work with other pickleball pros and help them develop curriculum, help them build their clientele, and just the overall programs that we have in the facility.
You should live and be well for a very long time. The stage that you're in right now, you seem to have come full circle in the way you describe going from essentially being an RA into resident life coordinator. You're now in charge of the RAs and the events and the programming and the full experience. And you did this as a pickleball player and then instructor. You played, you got into the position, and now you're at the pro level where you're teaching. Eventually, your goal is to become the director so you can do the same kind of work that you were doing as a resident life coordinator. But now you're influencing the community at large in this sport.
Yeah, I haven't thought of it like that, but thank you for putting that together for me. Yeah, I have loved it. I love the facility that I work at currently, and I just want us to continue growing. There are a lot of pickleball places in Indianapolis, and I want us to be the best one. And I think we have the people and the ability to do. Also, one of my strengths, but also some people might be considered to be a weakness, is I always get competition as my number one strength whenever I do like strengths quest. So I'm a very competitive person, and wherever I'm working, whatever I'm doing, I want to be the best at it. So want to be the best pickleball pro that I possibly can be, but also want the facility I'm working at to be the best pickleball facility that is out there.
Yeah, those are great goals and great values. It's clear to me that you're somebody who holds yourself to a standard that you want to keep pushing yourself and growing at every single chapter in your career journey. And so far, it's all been about learning and then doing for others and helping and supporting a community. I expect you to continue growing in meaningful ways, and I'm excited to watch that happen from the sidelines here.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's been great having you. Thank you again for being here.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I want to thank Trent Merrell for recommending Trent as today's guest, and to you, our listeners, for joining us on this episode of Transferable Skills. Remember, the skills you've gained can take you anywhere. Until next time, keep exploring those transferable skills.